I think the statistic from Realtor.com is that 40% of people would expect a discount on a haunted house, which I know for me,
Yeah,
I don't like the scary stuff. I don't even like going to haunted houses like
me
on
either.
Halloween. To me, it's
Me
just not my thing.
too.
I'm like, I'm not paying to get scared. Like,
My name is Kevin McIntosh, and this is the Closing Table, where we talk to experts about their experience in real estate all across the country. Let's go. Welcome back to the Closing Table. I am your host, Kevin C. McIntosh, and joining us on this episode, we are ready to pick his brain, find out what's going on in real estate in his market. We want to welcome Dylan Mostyn to the Closing Table. How are you, Dylan?
I am amazing. How are you?
Doing just fine. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to be here and taking time out of your very busy schedule to be here. We always appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we are here to talk about what's going on business-wise and real estate in your market. Before I even get into that, I want to know a little bit more about you. So, Dylan, in 60 seconds or less, if you can, tell us who you are outside of real estate, please.
Yeah, so outside of real estate, so I'm 22. Live in Michigan. Outside of real estate, if you don't find me in the office or outside working, you'll find me in the gym. I love health and wellness. That's my kind of like thing that besides work that I love just to like put myself into. So like I used to go to the gym like twice a day. I don't do that anymore. I
Nice.
used to be crazy, but usually you'll find me in the gym pretty much every day. Either doing like strength training, cardio. I used to take classes a lot, like I do a spin class a lot, which was fun. Um, but honestly, it was another great way for me to like take off the stress of work, but also still have
Yeah.
fun. And like I made a lot of friends through like just even like the gym community, and health and wellness, kind of like doing like the meditation side of things, or just anything that like can kind of help me like relax or like kind of just ground me to who I am at the end of the day and
Man.
help take my mind off of work. Because I mean, as a real estate
Mm-hmm.
agent, you're working 24/7. That
Mm.
it's so important to sometimes just really take time for yourself.
Yeah. That's a great point, by the way, because I feel like in positions like that, professions like that, where it's more like a 24-hour thing or like a lifestyle kind of thing where like you can be on call at any moment. I feel like you have to do things like that to kind of separate your professional life from your personal life. You have to have your own individual things to set aside to kind of give you peace, tranquility, and just separate from the busy work life that you have. So I get that, man, and
Hmm.
applaud you for that too, man.
Thank
Staying
you.
in the gym, being a gym rat, I'm the exact same. So good. We like to hear about who you are as a person.
Mhm.
Moving forward into your business part of things, I just want you to describe your real estate business however you want to, but if you are able to hit on a few notes, hit on how long you've been licensed, where you are licensed, and what you consider your specialty or niche, and any notable achievements if so.
Yeah. So I've technically been licensed for about over a year now. I got licensed actually when I was in college, but I didn't use it. Going into my senior year that summer, I started off in property management. I did an internship where I started off as a leasing consultant. So I leased out apartments to anyone who was looking to rent, which kind of got
Mm-hmm.
me the spark of real estate. I realized I was like, I love real estate. I love people. I love connecting with people, but the rental industry kind of or the leasing industry really wasn't where I felt like I made a true connection with someone. It was more just here, let me show you the property, let me have you fill out a lease, and then we'll move on from that. So that's kind
Right.
of where I sparked the interest of going into residential real estate, which I absolutely love. So getting licensed during that summer really sparked the flame of getting into the residential side of things. And then as soon as I graduated from Western Michigan University, I got actually, well, backtrack, I got my degree in marketing, which I knew was going to help me in real
Okay,
estate.
I was gonna
I
ask. Good.
I wanted to figure out a way for me to stand out amongst my peers in this industry, and I thought like marketing was going to be the best way. I talked to my college advisor about it, and they're like, you can go down a couple of different avenues, do something in business, marketing, advertisement, that kind of way, or you can go into like the psychology kind of field because a lot of the times I feel like I am playing like a therapist for my clients because it is
Yes.
an emotional transaction. I mean, it's one of our clients' biggest investments, assets, so I do expect that, and that's something that I think I bring value to a lot of my clients is because I can keep a level head when a situation that might not be going the best way possible. But I'm like, this is the steps. Let's walk through it. Let's not get over emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that was another avenue that my advisor recommended. But at the end of the day, I always knew I wanted to do something with business. And I talked to a couple of my family friends in real estate as well, and they said marketing was going to be the best thing. If I could figure out how to market a property, but more importantly, market myself as an agent, right? Um,
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
so that was something that I really wanted to focus a lot of my time on, especially in college, is trying to get that under my belt. And then with me also being so young, a lot of my people that I interact with a lot of is like a lot of my friends, right? So they're around the 20 to 25 age group.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
those are going to be the first time home buyers. So to me, I really knew as soon as I went into this industry, I had to learn to teach my friends. I wanted to become the educator for my group of people that I surround myself with.
Yeah.
And I was talking with another agent, and one thing that they said to me that really resonated with me was our job is really about research, right? What we're doing is
Mm-hmm.
researching properties, we're researching locations, we're researching all the stuff that goes around the realm of real estate. And one of the agents asked me, is like, in college or school, did you love doing research projects? I was like, yeah, that was like one of my favorite things. And she's like, bingo, that's why you're in real estate, because you love to do research and educate people on what's going on. I was like, that makes so much sense.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well said, man, because that's what a lot of people are expecting from their real estate professional when they are working with them. I'm expecting you to be the expert and know what's going on. In order to know what's going on, you have to do your research. You have to know what's going on. And marketing specifically is an ever changing field, if you want to say so. Especially with technology and new things that are being incorporated and things that have influence on people. You're dealing with so much to learn, so many different moving parts to marketing nowadays. So I think it's great that you went to school for marketing to kind of get that insight, apply it to real life situations. Not only just the listing part. I like that the fact that you brought up, I have to market myself also. I'm a new agent. So I love
100%.
that. That's very, very important, man.
Definitely.
Love
I
to hear
mean,
it, man.
the thing is that
Please.
everyone's an agent nowadays. I feel like everyone's getting their real estate license, so it's a very competitive industry, and it's very
Yes.
understandable. So it's how do I figure out how to separate myself to position myself to be known as the expert in my field of where I work. And to me, getting a degree under my belt was huge. And I've noticed that, especially about, like around younger realtors, a lot of them are going to school for finance, accounting, marketing, any entrepreneurship, all of that kind of stuff, which is helping
Yeah.
separate themselves from agents who have been in the business for a while, who already have that book of business, but people who are coming in now who don't have a book of business, but saying, hey, this is still what I offer to you. I have a degree under my belt. Is that something of value that I can provide to you?
I like that. I like that perspective. I want to build on that 1 second. So I feel like you kind of answered the question just now, but if you have more information to go into more depth, please do. But the main difference between the agents of the older generation and the newer agents like yourself, the
Mm-hmm.
newer class agents, what do you think is the real separation between the two, besides obviously the experience? I like the fact that you mentioned some of the newer agents may be coming out of college nowadays, even though it's not necessary, coming out of college, getting degrees in certain fields and areas, and applying that expertise into their actual profession. Is that the only thing, or is there other things that you feel like separates your class or generation of agents to the older generation?
I mean, the one thing I've noticed, I'll say specifically for my office, is that I have noticed that there's been like a technology gap between older agents and newer agents. And that's not saying that older agents can't still continue doing their jobs the way that they do. Some people
Right.
thrive off the way that they do it. For me, I knew I had to come in and I had to do something with marketing. That was my thing. And I've
Mm-hmm.
always been a huge advocate of digital marketing because that's an easy way to market to the masses. And you could still market while you're asleep, right? When you're cold
True.
calling or door knocking or everything, that's you having to do that one by one, right? When I post a video like on my social media, it lives there forever. When I'm sleeping, people are still watching it, right? To me, that doesn't require, well, it requires me to plan the content, film it, post it, right? Three easy steps. After that, it just lives on my social media forever and I don't have to touch it. To me, that was how do I work smarter rather than harder? That was one thing that my family has always taught me growing up is you're going to work with people who work very hard and they probably are very successful, but also try to separate yourself to where you're not killing yourself over work to work
Right.
smarter. And that's why I think, especially with my marketing degree, I wanted to focus more specifically on the digital marketing side of things. And I can start to see the trend slowly coming into the digital marketing area, especially in real
Mm-hmm.
estate.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Well said. I would agree with that too. The older generation didn't necessarily grow up with the technology and the internet like we did, like our
100%.
generation. So our generation the younger. So it only makes sense to take advantage of that tool, that we have to utilize. And same thing. I love the fact you brought up working smarter and not harder. That doesn't mean take shortcuts. It means find ways to work more efficient. Find ways where you can use less of your time and less of your actual I don't want to say effort, but of your actual physical labor,
Right.
and use less of that to leverage that with other technologies, platforms, softwares that you can use to still get the job done. I do the exact same thing. So
For
I'm
me,
glad you touched on that.
I love to be effective with my or efficient with my time, right? I
For
know
sure.
that
For
there's certain
sure.
things I want to hit throughout the day and I try to keep a list like every night I'll like create a list of like this is what needs to get done. I'm like, ooh, that's a lot. But I'm like, listen, let's figure out how we can break this down into chunks, but also make it manageable so we're still, like I said in the very beginning, still making sure I still have me time. I can go to the gym, I can hang out with my dog, I can hang out with my
Mm-hmm.
friends and family,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because to me, this job is like a 24/7 job, but I still want to have a life outside of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's get into where you are working geographically, the market that you serve. You touched on it briefly here in Michigan.
Mhm.
Let's get into more details for our audience. I want you to describe your current market first geographically. Get into the actual area that you serve, any notable landmarks, attractions, things to do. Describe the culture, the weather for people who may have never been there. Go.
Yeah, so I am from the Metro Detroit area, specifically Oakland County, that area. That's where I do a majority of my business is the Oakland County area. I dabble in the Wayne County, but really those are the two where I know them best, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I like went up north, I'd be like, okay, I'll probably just refer that out because I don't know much about that and I wouldn't want to do that to my
Correct.
clients. Um, but some of the cool things that this area offers is the sports stadiums. People love to go to Ford Field, the Tiger Stadium, Little Caesars Arena. I mean, there's concerts all the time. Red Wings are playing. The Lions are doing great this year. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, so that's something that, yes,
I gotta represent for my
yes, you do.
Lions.
Yeah, there we go. Listen, we got to give them credit where credit is due.
That's a
Um,
fact.
but yeah, that's like a lot of the things that people love to do. Other than that, people like restaurant. Like, I mean, we're very simple over here. We love to go to just restaurants, hang out with our friends, go to the bars. Especially with my friends, we love to go to like the arcade, like Dave and Buster's. There's a place called Paradise
Mm,
Park right down the road from me that I mean, I used to work there, but it has an arcade, it has laser tag, and like that's just it makes us feel young again, right? That's the thing is like we still want to go out and have fun with our friends and figure out what things are to do rather than just sit home alone and just like watch Netflix. Like that's not
that's a
fun.
fact. That's a fact. Yeah. And me being from the Metro Detroit area, very familiar with it also. I like to bring up the fact that yeah, there's a lot more things that are coming to that area, to the Metro Detroit area, the Oakland, the Wayne counties, the Macomb counties, the Livingston. There's a lot more things to do. And I like that we are also embracing winter by coming up with more outside winter events and festivals
Yes.
across the area. I love that because you're getting, it used to be a depressing time, the
Mm-hmm.
winter time. It's super cold. No one wants to come outside type thing. And even like you said, in the downtown Detroit area, at one point, it was only really Ford Field, or was it Comerica Park first, then Ford Field, or whatever the case may be. Now they added Little Caesars Arena, and they're adding more and more. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot more things to do in the Metro Detroit area, a lot more things to appreciate, a
And
greater sense of community too.
I love the fact that the cities are also, like you kind of said, tapped into, is that they're working to make more use of the areas, right? It's not just like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
here's some big office buildings that no one's ever going to use. It's just sitting there, right? They're using things
Right.
that like people can come to and hang out. Like restaurants are being built like crazy. Like they're coming in, like Birmingham, Royal Oak is a huge area. Like that's a hot
Oh yeah.
area.
Oh
So it's
yes.
so cool to see that the state, specifically Michigan, they really are trying to figure out different ways to get people more involved with hanging out, going outside, and
Mm-hmm.
participating with one another.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. I see it from my perspective also. So let's get into describing your market economically now. From your perspective, your experience, just talk about what's going on with real estate. Average sale price, average list price, the average days on market, just any type of information you can give us in regards to real estate data.
Yeah, so average sales price, it's definitely going up. I mean, compared to last year, I think I wrote it down. It was around like 236 for my area specifically, and then it jumped up to this year to around 245. But with that being said,
It's not bad.
this area is starting, it's very competitive right now. I mean, things are sitting up a little bit longer. The average days on market are around 34 days.
Mm,
But I mean, compared to 2020, things were sitting around for like 60 days. So we're still seeing that there's still buyers out there. And I think that's the misconception that a lot of the news outlets are saying is that, yes, there's a little inventory going out. Buyers don't want to move, sellers don't want to list their houses. But I mean, being in the field, like actually working in it, you do see the actual realization of what's going on in the market with
mm-hmm.
things are still selling, things are still moving, people are still listing their houses. And I think that's why I tell people, I'm like, the news is a little bit behind with what's going on compared to if you
Oh,
spoke
for
with an
sure,
actual
for
like
sure.
person, right? Someone who's actually
Mm-hmm.
working in the industry, who sees the day to day action of what's going
Mm-hmm.
on, saying, hey, like, let me tell you, like that house down the street over there, it just sold. You wouldn't know that off the news, right? They usually are a couple days behind that kind of stuff. And that's why I tell, especially my friends, I'm like, yes, the news can be a great source of general information. You're getting a very blanket kind of statement on things, but come to me and let's talk specifically about what's going on for the day to day markets.
Correct. Yes, I would have to agree with that too. And you said something I wanna ask you a little bit more about. You said in 2020 in your market, the average days on market was about 60. This
Yeah,
was during the pandemic. So it,
yeah,
it lowered from 3 years ago during the pandemic?
yeah. So things now,
Really?
especially with the home or homes just not being listed as often or as occurring as they used to be, buyers now they
Mm-hmm.
don't really have much wiggle room to really say, okay, well I can just wait then, or well, I mean, people still want to wait. Like I've noticed a lot of buyers getting a little bit more pickier. But the issue that I find is that I, with my clientele, I have to wait a while for those properties to come on the market because a lot of them are looking
Right.
for something very specific, which I
Mm,
understand, especially with buying a house. Like you want to find the right one for you, and that's my ultimate goal as being your agent. Is that let's find this the perfect property for you. Yes, we would. I always tell people like we're gonna have the must-haves and we're gonna have a wish list, right? We're gonna hit everything on your must-haves wish list. If I can hit one or two off that, to me that will make me happy. But that's the conversation I will have it with the client to see what that criteria is going to look like. But back to
okay.
kind of what's going on with days on market is, I mean, especially during the summer, summer's a very hot market for real estate. Things come and go, literally, like even in that day. It's insane to think about. I remember I was working with one of my clients and she was like, oh, can we go see it next week? I was like, no, we have to see it today.
Yeah,
um,
for real, for real. Yeah.
and she was like, well, I can't do that. I was like, well, can we go in at least like 2 more days? Like, I'm just worried after this weekend, it's going to be taken up. And
Mm-hmm.
so we scheduled the showing. We talked on Tuesday and we scheduled the showing for Friday. I get a call from the listing agent on Thursday. Hey, no more showings. We accepted
It
the
was
offer.
gone.
It was
Woo.
gone. And I mean, the one thing is I already expected that to happen, but you know what? You never know. It could have happened, but
Correct.
I'm also a big believer in everything happens for a reason. We did find that person a great place, so I'm very happy for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, definitely during, especially the spring and the summer, that's when a lot of people get back into the market because winter, like they say, is a very slow time in real estate. People don't want to move in the snow, which makes a lot of sense. But it also can be a great time to move because you have
I
less
agree.
competition, right?
I
You have a
agree.
lot less houses coming onto the market that you're going to have to compete with, where a buyer now will come and swing back in and say, okay, you know what, this makes sense for me. Let's do it, right?
Yep.
And you're usually getting a great price for it, depending on what the criteria of that house is, where it's located, the history behind the home. So there's like a lot of factors that go into that. Why that from the 60 days to the 30 days, I can't give you just like this is the reason, right?
Of
Um,
course. Of course.
but with that being said, It's just right now, especially with the inventory being low, I think that's why houses are moving a lot faster than not. Um, I mean, it's definitely starting to go back up. I've noticed that there's a lot more negotiations going on in real estate, which is kind of fun for me. I love to have that kind of little back and forth with an agent. Um, but with the whole aspect of things with timeline, yeah, no, it's definitely it's things are moving a lot more faster, and that's why I tell my clients, I'm like, we need to get the ball rolling ahead of time rather than when you're telling me I want to look for a house, right? Let's start the
Right,
process a little
right,
bit
right.
earlier.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay. Okay. Well, yeah. I love to hear that you're still tapped in. You're learning a lot about the market. You know, even with this being only your first year,
Yeah.
you seem very very knowledgeable. This is your area. This is the area that you grew up in,
Hmm.
the Metro Detroit area. So you're very familiar, just like myself. So
Yes.
love to hear that, man. And interesting facts that I didn't even know about myself. So thanks for educating us.
Of
I
course.
see that you also. Your family has a background in real estate also. So
Hmm.
I know this had to have not only a great influence on you, but probably help prepare you a lot more for your industry than the average real estate agent who goes in with no family. So can you talk about a time or tell us about a time where you used some of the knowledge, specific knowledge that you got from family members in real estate and applied it to a transaction that maybe started off a little bit challenging, but you end up coming out with success for everyone?
Yeah, 100%. So my uncle, he does commercial real estate. So I remember when I was first beginning my real estate exploration, I guess you can say, I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to sit down with him. I was like, I don't know anything about real estate. Can you kind of give me the lowdown of everything? He's like, well, there's
Mm-hmm.
different industries you can go into. You can do residential, you can do rentals, you could do commercial, all of those kind of different things. I was like, okay, I think
Mm-hmm.
residential is going to be where it's at. And he was saying the one thing you will always have to remember is that this is going to be such an emotional transaction, right? He's like, you'll always have to keep a level head with your clients, never make them seem like it's a bigger issue than it could be, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like when you're on an airplane, right? If you see the flight attendants freaking out, you're gonna start freaking out.
I'm
But if
freaking out.
I'm sweating.
Crazy.
So I tell people I'm like a flight attendant. If you see me freaking out, then maybe you should be freaking out. But I'm gonna keep calm, right?
There you
Because there's
go.
always an answer and there's always a solution to every problem in
Mm-hmm.
life, right? It's not just it's not a black and white. It's there's very much
Mm-hmm.
gray area in real estate, and that's why I tell people I'm like, make sure you're working with a creative agent, right? Because I had a situation where I had a client, we looked at a property, we put it in an offer, it got rejected. And I like to say I don't like to hear the answer no. So I called that agent. I was like, what will it take to get my client accepted? We walked through the property. This is the one that she wants. It's a great location. How do we get her accepted, right? And so the listing agent was like, okay, well, we're gonna have to lay out these terms. These are the things that my client wants on their end, right? So I talked to
Mm-hmm.
my client. I was like, this is what they're asking for. This is what we're gonna come back at. If they say yes, we're golden. If not, I'm still going to work my magic. Don't you worry.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you're bringing me onto your team.
Mm-hmm.
So after kind of going back and forth with the listing agent on the property, I was happy to hear that my client got accepted. She moved in and she's just happy. She's so over the moon with what the experience she had. And I think the one thing she will say about the whole thing is that she never felt like it was stressful to her. She
Mm-hmm.
genuinely felt like it was such an enjoyable process. I mean, obviously, I can't really speak for her, but like the way that she represented the whole transaction on the whole end of things was that it was such, she felt like she was advocated for and not rather than just saying, hey, here's some papers that you need to sign for me. Let's go see a property. Let me open the door for you. Good luck, right?
Right.
I fought
Right.
for my
Right.
client. I wanted to make sure that my client got what they wanted. And I think that's what and agents are now starting to see is the negotiation from side to side because properties are starting to come back more on the market. Inventory is starting to go back up. Competition is there, you know. So, I mean, at the end of the day, negotiations are starting to come back. And it was, to me, it was fun on my end because it was, how do I get creative? And that's kind of where you have to think about things is what does the other side want? How do I get my client to win? How do we meet in the middle? Because in
Right.
my
Right.
office, we like
Right.
to say there's a saying, it's win win or no deal. I wanted them to win, which the listing side, and my client, my on the buyer side, we both won. We both got what we wanted, and that to
Mm-hmm.
me, I that's the thing that I love about real estate so much is making people feel knowledgeable, informed, but also feel like they got what they were expecting, plus more, to be honest.
Right, right. Of course, of course. Yeah, man. See, I like that you're bringing in nowadays. It seems like we're negotiating more.
Hmm.
That there tells me that there's starting to be a slight turn in the market. Not to
Yeah,
say that it's going to be a buyer's market in 2024. We're not
yeah,
saying that, but what I am saying is those little small changes, like you're saying, because let's say 2-3 years ago during the pandemic when it started, you were barely negotiating. Like you said,
no,
you
yeah,
didn't even have time to look at a house next week. You
right.
either go right now and make that offer now, or you have to look for another house.
Hmm.
And it was like you said, no negotiating. These are our terms. This is what we want. If you want this house, it's this, or you're gonna have to step. And
Exactly,
nowadays, you're starting to have a little bit more level playing field where you can actually do that back and forth. So I
definitely.
love you explaining that. That's what I took from it, and I love to hear it. And
Yeah.
then you not accepting no for an answer. You say you get that from your family, and
Hmm.
obviously it worked out for your clients. I
Yes,
love to hear that, man. I
definitely.
love to hear that you going
That
above and beyond for your
that was the thing is
clients.
like I got an email saying, "Oh, it's not going to work out. Unfortunately, we are not going to go with your client." I was like, "Oh, let me get on the phone." So
Yep.
I, the worst thing that someone could say, right, is no, right? So I was like, let me just push
Hmm.
a little bit more, or they say no again, and then we kind of figure out another way to move on from the situation. But I like to do the best that I can, and I know that I can, for my clients, obviously. And to me, making a simple phone call isn't really that hard, right? It's either
Right, right,
it's just saying, "Hey, what can I do for both sides to win?" And I think that's such a great
right.
saying because they also feel like they are being appreciated on their side as well. Because I don't want to say, "Hey, I don't care about you and your clients," because that's not true. But how do we both win, right? Obviously, the
Of
goal of their
course.
side is to sell. My goal is to get my client to buy. How do we merge those two goals together to win?
Yeah. And I'm telling you, me personally, I love working with people who already see whatever transaction or deal we're working on, that they want it to be a win-win situation. I
Hmm.
love working because not everyone has that mentality. Some people are just, I got to get mine. I got to get mine. I got to get
Right.
my win. I need, it's a dog eat dog
Yeah.
world.
See, I don't
No,
believe in
let's,
that because
me either, man. Come on,
I,
please.
I like to say we're all human at the end of the day, right? We
Mm-hmm.
all want to feel like we're doing the best job for our clients.
Yeah.
But as real estate experts, right, I understand that that person has a job to do. I understand I have a job to do. But we're both fighting the same battle, right? We both
Correct.
want our clients to win. And that's kind of the mentality I go into with when I like negotiate with the other agents. I'm like, how do what is your client? What's most important for your client? And how can I
Mm-hmm.
meet
Mm-hmm.
that? And how can you do that for my client as well? It's never
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, we demand this, we demand that. No, I'm not like that. I
Right,
would
right.
never consider myself a rude person. I consider
Mm-hmm.
myself assertive, right? I will make that phone call to you and say, hey, how do I win with you? And you could say, maybe it's just not going to be a winning situation. Listen, at least now I know, right? I rather
Yeah.
know than not know. And that just comes
Yeah.
back down to
Yes.
the education aspect of everything. Um, but back to that is like I feel like me and the agent on the other side, we are working together rather than against each other, right? That's something I never wanted to go into mentality like, oh, I have to go like battle with them. Like, no, it's not
Of
like that.
course. Of course. Yeah, yeah. I love that, man. Love that you're doing that, putting that work in. You said that you recently graduated from Western Michigan University. Shout out to the
Yes,
Broncos.
go Broncos.
Um, Go Broncos. And you said most of your peers obviously are recent graduates also, or may some still be in college. So you feel like it's your task, your duty, your responsibility to be the one within your circle who is the real estate guy who everyone goes to for real estate in their transactions. In
Yes.
your humblest opinion, honest opinion, with those being your peers, what do you feel like is the hardest or the most challenging obstacle for recent college graduates to become homeowners? And how do you help them overcome it?
Simple answer, saving. um,
Yes.
I even like I'll admit it, I'm a horrible saver. If I get money in my pocket, I spend it, right? And especially
Mm,
now being in this
me too.
industry where my paycheck really is commission based. I don't make an hourly wage or a salary.
Mm-hmm.
is saying that like I have to be very smart with how I use my money and how I spend it. And that's something I, with the real estate side of things, I also translate that as there's also a financial aspect to real estate, right? Most people think like, yeah, you have to put the 20% down, which obviously isn't true. But I'm still saying like, listen, there's still a money aspect to things. You still have to put, there's still money that you have to throw to a house, right? It's not, nothing's free. Um, but I see like a lot of people like I'm guilty of it too, is getting a lot of Starbucks, right? I used to get Starbucks every day. I've cut it down to 5 days a week. Um, um, but I like tell people, I'm like, what if you cut out Starbucks like once a week or at least a handful of times a month? Imagine the money you're saving that you could use towards a down payment, towards a home for yourself. That's an investment and an asset that later off in life you could use to work with you rather than against you, right? Because I used to work in the rental leasing aspect of things, and I tell people, I'm like, leasing and renting makes sense for some people, and sometimes it does not make sense. Buying a home makes sense for some people, but sometimes it makes no sense for someone else, right? It's let's have that conversation and figure out where it fits. And that's why I tell my friends, that's why I want you to come to me. Let's talk. Let's have that conversation. I'm not expecting you to say, hey, Dylan, I'm ready to buy a house right now. No, I totally understand. You're fresh out of college, you just want to save some money. I get it. Um, but I want to be that guy that you come to at least ask the questions. So I can at least, if I don't know the answer, I'll get you the answer. That's the thing, is I want to be that resource for you. I want to provide value. And that's the one reason why I love real estate a lot, is because I get to be that go-to guy that a lot. And the cool part is like when I get a phone call from someone who I haven't talked to in like 2 years saying, "Hey Dylan, I'm looking in this area. Do you think this is a good deal?" Or, "Hey Dylan, I don't really understand what this means. Can you briefly explain it to me?" And I get to explain it because I've learned it. And now when I explain it on the other side of things, it's kind of cool because it's like, oh, wow, I really do know it now. Like that's like a little pat on the back for me. It's like, oh, cool. Now I'm starting to feel like I really am that expert in my field when I get to translate that to my friends. So it's cool because I get to play like teacher in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we all like to be looked at as that go-to person for something, right? That knowledgeable person, that expert in whatever field. And I think that's what kind of separates you, not only separates you, but makes you great at whatever you do.
Mm-hmm.
If the people around you know that you are known for this and they can go to you for answers in a specific field, that makes you an expert, at least within your circle.
Yes.
That makes you the go-to person, the resourceful person, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you're doing that you are that person, because every circle needs that, and for different fields also. So it's kudos to you, because I also have friends that I went to high school, college with, I see that are now real estate agents, and I pretty much do the same thing from time to time. Reach out to them, ask them a question or two, et cetera, et cetera. So I love that we have people like you that are actually helping other people that have those questions, especially friends.
Let me add to that too, is it makes us feel good when people reach out to us because and like they feel confident enough that we will give them the valuable information. Because like I've had a couple of friends who are like, "Oh, I feel like I'm bothering you." I'm like, "No, no, 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 no." Like I had one friend, she's looking at an auction property. I was like, "Let me give you all the information I can about it." And she's like, "Oh, I feel bad because like I feel like I'm bothering you." I'm like, no, this is genuinely why I got into this industry, is because I love people and I love giving information that will make you more empowered to make a good decision. That's why I came into this industry. And so I
Nice.
tell my
Well
friends, I'm like,
said.
never feel like you're burdening me by like reaching out to me, asking a question.
Of course, of course. Come to me. That's what I want you to do. Yeah, like you said, it makes
Exactly.
me feel great, like I'm doing my job.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new service. Well, it's new to me because I didn't know it existed. I had no idea what it is, but I learned this doing research on your end. Office exclusive listings.
Yes.
Now I see that it's a tool for certain selling transactions based on whatever the specific client's needs and expectations are. What is an office exclusive listing, and who would best benefit from this type of listing, Dylan?
Yeah, so an office exclusive listing it actually is pretty much what it sounds like. So it's exclusive to that office. So my
Mm-hmm.
brokerage that I'm licensed under is Keller Williams Advantage. We're out in Novi. So let's say I have a client who comes to me and says, Dylan, I don't want to put my house on the market. I want to list it, but I want to see if I can get an offer on it. That's when the conversation of the office exclusive listing comes into play. Will tell them like, listen, it's not going to be listed online. the one thing that the way that we market will be through our office. So we have a system in place where we will let other agents know saying, this is the house we have, this is the area, bedrooms, bathrooms, location, amenity, all those kind of different things. And if you have a buyer who fits that, let's bring them in. So what it really does to a seller is it gives you a peace of mind and it's less stressful rather than listing it on Zillow, the MLS, realtor.com, where now you have the mass marketing of things and you have all these buyers who are going to want to come in, view your property, who might not even be pre-approved or qualify for that kind of home. But that means that now you
Mm,
have to get your home ready for showings. You have to leave your house when you have showings, open houses, all that kind of stuff, which could be stressful to someone who really just doesn't want all that on it. It could be a slower process, which I do tell people. I'm like, office exclusive, you're only getting into a certain bubble of people rather than a
mm-hmm.
huge bubble. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're someone who's like, hey, I want to take my time at least looking for another house, or I don't want the stress of showings, open houses, then this is a great avenue for you. This is something that could be a big benefit because it gives you time to figure out where you want to move to next, right? But
Right, right.
also, you're not really dealing with the stress of all the components that go into an actual full like marketing plan of listing your home on MLS.
You know, the visual that came to my head for an analogy for that, as you were explaining, is like it's like fishing in a pond for a specific type of fish that's not that doesn't live in there, that's kind of scarce, and as opposed to fishing in an ocean that has many other types of fish that are still just as good, but you're still looking for this one fish. In a way, that's kind of the analogy that came to my head while
Yeah.
you were explaining it. And at first I was thinking, this doesn't make any sense for someone to do. Like, why wouldn't you want the better chances of your house being sold? But
Mm-hmm.
I love the way that you put it, right? Sometimes you just want to test it just to see what you can possibly get.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just don't want everyone to know your business.
Right.
You don't want to tell family, friends, or whatever that you're getting a divorce or that you're selling a home or whatever the case may be. So then people comes up and ask questions. Or you don't want to have to
Exactly.
always prepare your home for strangers to come inside
Mm-hmm.
or whatever the case may be. So now that you mention it, I'm putting things together and I'm like, it makes sense. So
Even
that
during like the
service,
winter
thank you
time,
for.
is that
Yes.
like a lot of people like don't want a lot of people coming through their house, tracking snow through their house.
Oh my
This is another
goodness. Oh
aspect that
my
I tell people. I'm
goodness.
like, listen, if you don't want all that stress of one clearing off your driveway every day, all day, of the snow, plowing it, making sure it's all ready, putting salt down, making sure no one slips. This is another good avenue because you're at least limiting the amount of people that are coming, which requires less work on your end as a
Mm-hmm.
seller. So especially during the wintertime, that's when we kind of see a lot of these
I
come
can
up.
see that.
But like you said, like it's good for like those kind of people that just don't really want like other people in their business, like
Mm-hmm.
the neighbors or family and friends. It's kind of like a low key kind of way of selling your house.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
love the
of
way you put it
course.
with the difference between putting it in a pond and putting it in an ocean. Like the pond,
Mm-hmm.
you're still going to get a bite, but it's just you're not getting a bigger pool of people.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, yeah. You can steal that if you want to, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead and use
Oh, I
that
will.
song.
Thank you. Oh, don't
I'm
worry.
just
I'll give you credit.
I appreciate that, man. You also have your own podcast, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
So you on the other side of this, you have the Pure Michigan Properties Podcast, the
Yes.
ultimate destination for navigating the world of real estate in the beautiful state of Michigan, by the way. Love
Yes.
that part. Can you talk about the platform, what it's about, and what do you want people to take away from consuming the content that you have there?
Yeah, so I am a co-host on the Pure Michigan Properties podcast with a good friend and agent of mine, Shalonda Wather, who is, I would say, a rock star agent. She and I both wanted to figure out how do we market to the masses, right? And how do we provide value? So we sat down together and brainstormed. This is the specific area we want to focus on was Michigan, right? Because a lot of people are like, okay, let's do a podcast, and they market everywhere. I on our end, we were like, listen, we want to figure out because we love Michigan a lot, and that's why we wanted to get licensed here. We wanted to sell real estate here, and so we're like, Michigan's the perfect opportunity to hit on that market for a podcast, but also swing it on the real estate side as well because that's where we're most knowledgeable. So her and
Mm-hmm.
I like to tell people in our office, we already have great conversations, just the two of us, like going back and forth off of real estate.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it makes only so much, or it makes so much sense to film it and put it out to give value and knowledge and expertise to the people who do tune in and view it. And I was like, it's like killing two birds with one stone at that point, because we're already talking about it. We might as well film it and put it out. And like I said, like digital marketing to me is like one of my favorite things to do. Um, so I was like, listen, I'll take care of the whole like behind the scenes stuff. I just need you on the podcast, Shalonda. Like
Yeah.
you are just she has a great personality. Um, and it's cool because like when we were first like brainstorming everything, we're like, listen, how do we figure out how to hit everyone? So we broke it down. We're doing buyers, we're doing sellers, we're doing investors, first time home buyers, or how to sell your home by yourself. Like there's different aspects. So it hits everyone in different segments and different chunks so that everyone's
Mm.
included in the conversation.
Good point. Good point. I love that. I love speaking with other people who have their platforms, also their podcasts, their shows, or whatever the case may be, because we are in the era of content creation.
Yes.
We are in the era, like you said, digital creators, digital marketers. Like this, when you're creating content like this is creating content. This keeps you relevant on digital platforms. Mm-hmm. Why do you want to stay relevant on digital platform? Because everyone has a digital platform. Everyone is on their phone. So you want to appear in that to promote your brand and do things like that. So I love it. I appreciate it. I know that you're just kind of starting. Mm-hmm. So you're still kind of getting things going, man. I love to see it. I love to see people starting off, and I love to see them grow into something and develop their platform. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
The Pure Michigan Properties Podcast. I want people to check that out again. Where can they find that podcast?
So the easiest way to find it is through my website. If you go to Dylan, DYLAN, Mostyn, MOSTYN.com, you'll find it on there.
Perfect. Make sure you show some love and support that. For first-time home buyers or just buyers in general looking for a good deal on a home, I think you said they should consider haunted houses.
Yes.
Did you really say that, Dylan?
So,
okay, you got to explain this.
Yeah. I'd love to go into that topic. So I found it actually in a video. I think I was like scrolling on TikTok or something, and it was talking about haunted houses. And I don't know if you know this, but there's actually 4 states. I know New York, Massachusetts, and I cannot remember the last 2. But they actually, you have to disclose on a seller's disclosure saying, there's paranormal activity going on in this house. And if they found out that, like if a buyer found out that there was activity going on in the house that wasn't disclosed, there's grounds for contract release, which I thought was super interesting. Michigan's more of a buyer beware kind of state where it's like, you have to do your own due diligence behind it to figure out if there is. But I mean, I think the statistic from realtor.com is that 40% of people would expect a discount on a haunted house, which I know for me, I don't like the scary stuff. I don't even like going to haunted houses like in Halloween. To me, it's just not my thing. I'm like, I'm not paying to get scared. Like horror movies, get me out.
I'm the same way, man.
I just can't do it. I'm sorry. I'm not paying $20 to go see a horror movie. Like that sounds like a terrible time. I'd rather go see a comedy. But
I love it.
It actually could be a great idea. It's just kind of something that you're going to have to work with your agent to figure out like the history behind the home. And if that's something that you're interested in, it also depends like on the intensity of the paranormal activity. Like, I mean, we can go all the way up from like doors slamming, pictures falling, all that to just
your whole couch being moved over in the living room.
Yeah, like
out of here.
I see all those TV shows. Like, trust me, I'm like, ooh, I'm not getting inside one of those. Like, no, thank you. But I mean, there's some things where like houses are haunted, right? The term haunted sounds such like a negative thing, but that just means that there's paranormal activity going on in the house.
Correct.
Which means it doesn't have to be a mean spirit, right? There's good spirits out there that just want to stay where they're at. Like,
make your coffee in the morning.
I know for me, like this is gonna sound so weird, but I have a fan in my room, right? Every once in a while, it would just turn on by itself. So, I mean, it freaks you out in a second, but I'm also like, you know what? It's not like mean spirited or anything. It's just, to me, it's just them acknowledging that they're in their room. And
they're like, "Oh, you're a little hot. Let me cut the fan."
Exactly. It's like, hey, can you turn up the AC or a little bit? Like I need something.
I'm out of there.
But it's another avenue that I'm like, it could be a house hack right there for someone. There's definitely a small percentage of people that would even consider it, but to me, I've never heard of it before. And when I saw a video on it, I was like, that's super interesting. I bet my friends don't know about that. I need to make a video on it.
That is great information, first and foremost. It sucks that it doesn't work like that in Michigan as far as the seller disclosure and
Yeah.
everything like that. But man, that is some very interesting content. When I saw that, I said, yo, that lets me know it's two types of people in this world. If you move into a home and you see paranormal activity like a door closed out of nowhere, you're either saying, I gotta get out of here, or let me call that real estate agent. I need a discount on this home. I'm not thinking like a discount. I'm
No,
out of here,
I'm
bro.
like, if the discount's like 100% off, yes.
Right.
But other than that, no, to me, I would never consider it. But
No,
there's
me
some
either.
people that
Me
love
either.
the thrill.
Yeah. And then you know what the other side of it is, like you said, sometimes you just never know what happened in this home.
Right.
Like, even if it's not technically haunted or whatever the case may be, maybe something happened in that home with the previous owner that kind of, I don't know, kind of creeps you out if you may
Yeah.
have found out about it. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? So there's always that weird thing. Like, you really don't know what has happened in this house before you move there, to be honest
100%.
with you, in some cases. So to find that out, I was like, oh, we have to talk about this.
Yeah,
So thank you for
right.
bringing that
Of course.
to the
Thanks.
closing
Yeah.
table.
It's actually, it's such an interesting topic. And when I posted that video, a lot of people reached out to me. They're like, oh my God, that's an actual thing. I'm like, little did you know.
It's
Yeah.
an actual thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, actual thing. You dedicated yourself to bridging the gap between renting and buying.
Hmm.
Your mission is to share this knowledge and help your generation understand the process of buying a home.
Hmm.
First off, who do you consider your generation, and what else do you feel like other agents can do that are part of your generation to help people in your generation to become homeowners?
Yeah. So for me, I'm considered to be a Gen Z, which I think is between the ages or the years of 1997 or two, and then 2012, 2012, I think. Somewhere around there. Don't quote me on it. Um, but that's kind of where I categorize myself in that category. And even though like those people may not be ready to be buying a home yet or ready to make that move, it's more about the education aspect. And I think for me, I do come from a qualified background because, like I said before, I did do the rental aspect before. I saw that process of everything, and I switched over to doing residential real estate, and I got to see the process of that. And the cool part is when I was going through the real estate side of things, I got to see the contrast and comparison between the two. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's so cool now because I become the expert on both sides of things. So I can say, hey, yes, maybe let's look into that rental lease agreement. Let's see what that means because maybe that's not the best case scenario for you. Or, hey, let's look at these terms for you on these residential properties that you're looking at. Is that the best case scenario for you? You know, and the cool part is that I'm able to look at it, break it down, comprehend it, and then bring that back to my friends, family, clients, and explain that in a way that they understand that. And that's how I feel like I come back as the knowledgeable agent. And I think that's also another value provider that I give to my clients is that
Right.
most agents, I will say, probably started off doing strictly real estate and they didn't really see the rental leasing side of things. And that's where I
Good
think
point.
another thing that I shine on is that I can give value to both sides.
I anticipated you would say that. So my follow-up question would be, what do you feel is the best or most effective and efficient way to educate people in your generation? What method, what channel, what media? For an example, I kind of don't want to give this example because I feel like this would be the answer, but I'll just throw it out there. I mean, you could say first time home buyer seminars. You can throw events like that, maybe on campus, but
Mhm.
is it effective? You could say something like YouTube videos, but I got to get people to actually watch it. You could say TikTok. A lot of
Yeah.
people in the Gen Z, they're on TikTok and learn about. So, or is it just like social media posts? What do you feel like is the most effective way to educate? Like, we know we educate, but what do you feel like is the most effective way to educate people in your generation?
For me, from what I've noticed being in the industry, the best and the most effective way is a one-on-one conversation. It's social
Mm,
media is a great tool to give a blanket statement of kind of things saying this is what rental looks like, this is what buying looks like, and that kind of opens the door to conversations. But I don't
mm-hmm.
think it's the main source that people should be leaning on to say, okay, this is what I need to do because you know what that what I said maybe doesn't apply to you, and that's why tell people, yes, please still watch my content, please still look at it on YouTube, um, TikTok, all those different platforms, right? but that I want those to start sparking the converse or the questions you have. Then I want you to come back to me now and have that one-on-one to where I can look at you as an individual rather than a platform and
Yeah.
say, okay, for your situation, I would not recommend X, but I would recommend Y to you because this is why I think it will fit better for you because that's the individual aspect. And real estate really is an individual activity, I guess you can say, um, because it's not a one size fits all. Everyone is different. Everyone has different needs. Everyone has different circumstances, situations. That's where
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
think creativity in this industry is so important. And if you can not put yourself in a very strict bubble where it's like, okay, I'm only doing this, you have to also
Mm-hmm.
be very flexible and understand what your
Yeah.
clients are
Yeah.
looking for. And that's why I say the best case scenario or best situation is just have a one-on-one.
I would agree. I would agree. Spot on, direct, one-on-one, personal, intimate, get to know them. I 100% agree. Couldn't have said it better,
Yeah.
Dylan. Thank you so much for pulling up a chair to the closing table, being here, sharing that knowledge. We definitely appreciate that, Dylan. At this point, if you have any last words and or want to tell people how to reach out to you, the floor is yours.
Yeah. So, Kevin, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. This truly was great, and I really appreciate it. The best way to reach out to me is honestly, if you just Googled Dylan Mostyn Real Estate, so Dylan, last name Mostyn, Mostyn, it'll give you all my contact information. You'll pretty much, I can guarantee you, the first link will be my website. Click on that, and you'll have everything you need to know.
There we go. Thank you so much, Dylan. We appreciate you for being here. And for our YouTube audience watching right now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, do us both a favor and hit the like button, please and thank you. Make sure you also subscribe, share the content. Also, subscribe to our channel for our other content. And if you are listening on Apple, Spotify, or any other podcast platforms, please do the same. Give us a like, 5-star rating, and subscribe for our latest content. Dylan, on the way out the door, I always like to leave our audience with a question. So this is for you, audience. Got a question. What reason would you or did you list or sell your home privately or through an office exclusive listing? Why did you do it? Don't tell us now. Leave it in the comments below. Besides that, we'll talk to you next time.